There are two general groupings of ETs, and we call them the good guys and the bad guys. On this planet, the bad guys dominate by far. They have written, signed agreements with the United States government and a few other governments to allow them to conduct experiments and do operations here in exchange for help with technology associated with the craft retrieval program that the U.S. government, for example, has been doing.
Chris Lato. Welcome to Lato Files.
So based on all this work, have you developed any new theories or hypotheses about the nature of the phenomenon or about remote
Yes,
viewing? Yeah,
yes, we know the whole thing now,
you
and
do. Okay.
what we're trying to do is convince the rest of the world that what we have discovered is in fact correct.
Okay. What is it? What have you discovered, or you
Okay,
believe you discovered?
first let me talk about some other people. I love other people
Okay.
who do work in this stuff, and I'm not criticizing them at all. But there's Daniel Sheehan, for example. He's a very famous lawyer. He also came out from a Catholic Jesuit background, and he looks at the UFOs as something that's being covered up by evil military corporate entities that need to be broken through, and that this type of stuff is necessary for the rising of humanity so we can join our cosmic brothers and sisters and so on like that. Stephen Greer also is very much along that line. He talks about the UFO stuff all the time, and he talks about it in terms of the galaxy of peace and brotherhood, and the evil empire is here. The military-industrial complex is the one that's stopping us from being free. And then and he often talks about it from the perspective of having free energy, having cheap energy. Well, I'm glad that they're talking about the UFOs. They're doing a great job, but that's not what's going on. There are problems in the military and with the government, but what those big shots are talking about is not it. It's as above, so below. There are two general groupings of ETs, extraterrestrials, and we call them the good guys and the bad guys. Now, don't think in terms of genetic things like the grays or whatever. They got grays on both sides, and they got other different types on both sides. But
Huh.
there are two different types: the good guys and the bad guys. On this planet, the bad guys dominate by far. They have written, signed agreements with the United States government and a few other governments to allow them to conduct experiments and do operations here in exchange for help with technology associated with the craft retrieval program that the U.S. government, for example, has been doing. Now, this is not in dispute among anyone who's serious. For example, Chaim Ashed, the former head of the Israeli Space Directorate for 30 years. Chaim Ashed. Now, he's like the Israeli equivalent of NASA. He has stated point blank that the U.S. has written, signed agreements with the U.S. government. The extraterrestrials have these signed agreements. And part of the agreements is secrecy is an absolute must. They don't want anyone knowing that they're real. That's why this disclosure problem is hitting such a hard wall. It's not just that the U.S. government, has secrets that it wants to keep. They've got written agreements, and those ETs are actually helping with some weapon stuff and other things. And if you doubt that, just Google Haim Ashed and UFOs and stuff. You'll see it. Now, he didn't try to make it public. He gave this interview where he talked about all this stuff in Hebrew, in a Hebrew publication. He thought it would be small because of that. But it turned out that a whole bunch of people know Hebrew. It immediately got translated into all sorts of languages. Anyway, the blankety blank hit the fan, so to speak. But nonetheless, he said it. So what basically it is on this planet, the bad ETs have got all of the political leadership in their pocket. They control everybody on the top. The good ETs, the ones that I will be blunt with, that we at Farsight work with, are completely shut out of the political leadership. Let me tell you point blank, we have no access to the political leadership. The good guys, they don't. But the good ETs are dominant in the solar system. The bad ETs are dominant on the planet Earth, meaning the good ETs have more presence, military and everything in the solar system, but there's nothing they can do about it because of these damn written agreements that have been signed by the US government. That's a voluntary thing. You see, the good ETs had this near fanatical adherence to the concept of free will. And if the humans by free will decide to be slaves, that's nothing they can do about it. A
Yes.
slave has free will too, and if they want to be a slave, that's okay. The good ETs have been trying to change things a lot, but they were totally closed out and still to this day are totally closed out of the political leadership. But they have won the hearts and minds of the public, of the masses. What they've been doing, one of the things they've been doing, is they've been slipping ideas into the dreams of script writers, for example, out of Hollywood, so that when the scriptwriter wakes up in the morning, they says, "Ah, I've got this great idea for a new idea." And then a new movie comes out. Now the good ETs believe in free will, so they can't force the person to have a new show or a new movie or whatever, but they can slip the idea in, and then the person thinks it's his or her own idea. And then we have Star Trek, Star Wars, we have the Matrix movies, we have a whole bunch of the news, all the new science shows that have come out, so that the populace, the public, becomes familiarized with the basic ideas that the bad ETs don't want anyone even to think about. So you've got that struggle. So that's why this disclosure process is so big right now. The masses are ready for it, and the elite are kicking and screaming. They have these written agreements, and the military is split. Let me tell you, this is the absolute fact. The military is split. I don't know what the exact percentages are, but let's say 50-50. 50% is following the original agreements. They like the fact they have working relationships with the bad ETs, but they consider it good because they're getting help with the reverse engineering some of the tech on the ships that have been crashed and so on like that. The good ETs don't offer that kind of stuff. They don't think we should be investing in military technology because the only thing we're going to do is shoot everybody with it. So the good ETs can invade, but if they did invade to kick the bad ETs out, they have the military power to do that. All of humanity would rise up and they'd see these good ETs coming in and they wouldn't know they were good. They'd say, "My gosh, we're being invaded." And so they would scream for their governments to defend themselves. So the bad ETs and the political leadership have the good ETs over a barrel. The good ETs have to get it to the point where the public demands that the disclosure process happen and that it becomes public, and that the political elite realign themselves from the bad ETs to the good ETs. Because the public doesn't even know that there is a schism between the good ones and the bad ones. So that's why the disclosure process is going on. So the only thing the good ETs are trying to do is say, just tell the people the truth. It's like Bob Marley, just tell the people the truth. That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
And once people find out what actually has been going on, then everything will be like a domino effect. It'll be a catalytic conversion of everything, and you'll get a complete change of everything. And then the good ETs can handle it. They can handle the bad ETs, but they can't handle it if they're also fighting humanity. Let's say they came in and knocked the bad ETs out, but the disclosure thing never happened. What are they supposed to do? Take everybody and send them to re-education camps like communist China, in Stalin's Russia, Soviet Union? And I was thinking of, the re-education camps in China, like during Mao Zedong's time. What are they supposed to do? There has to get to the point they can't do that. So there has to get to the point where the public actually voluntarily says, "We like you guys, we don't like those guys, switch." And so that's why people like Sheehan and Greer, it's great what they're doing and sure publicizing this stuff, but they're talking about it like all ETs are good. It's not that way. It's just like as above, so below. It's whatever you see here is like whatever you see there. They have major factions. This planet, because it's being controlled by the bad ETs, is being run as a prison planet. This place is a prison. There is no worry about being banished to hell. There is no planet that is a better description of hell than this planet. Just read the news every day. You see the people that are dying and everything like that. So this planet with all the turmoils and troubles, that's all the troubles, the wars and everything, those are largely engineered by the bad ETs. That's like a magician. If you distract people enough, they can't see what you're doing with your hands. So they want to distract people with these wars and troubles and tribulations and famines, and then people never calm down enough to ask the question. Let me give you an example. When you hear these congressional hearings and news reports of these disclosure things with the whistleblowers, every major reporter always says, now, does that mean we're not alone in the universe? What the blankety blank? What the heck does that? Well, how stupid can you get? Does that mean we're not alone in the universe? Now, listen, the only question they should be asking is, well, if the ETs are here, what have they been doing all these years? If they're trying to hide themselves, what are they up to? That's what they should be all asking. And this whole idea that, and you get this a lot in the channeling community, is that all the ETs are friendly and they're waiting for humanity to wake up. And they're trying to say, when will you actually be mature enough as a species to be accepted by your loving brothers and sisters out there in the galaxy? That's all rubbish. That's all garbage. There's nothing like that. As above, so below. They fight out there. They have war. Why do you think all those ET ships are armed to the teeth? Okay, now, Chris, you're a fighter pilot. Did you see fighter pilots crashing their airplanes all the time? Those planes were pretty stable, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were pretty
Yeah, I
good.
mean, once a year, maybe in the whole across the whole force, there'd be
Okay.
a crash. Yeah.
But these craft retrieval program, which is ongoing, it's people are now, you see it on the major news showing now that it's ongoing. You see this in especially the less than mainstream. Actually, it is the new mainstream outlets are things like The Hill, Breaking Points, News Nation, things like that. Those are the new mainstream, and
Yep.
they're covering it all over the place. What basically is happening is this crash retrieval program is like very active. And when these ET ships crash, the military goes out and collects them, keeps everything secret, locks them all up, takes them to various places and starts, reverse engineering the various things. Some of the ET ships, it's now been publicized in congressional hearings that some of the ET ships are actually intact and some of them are crashed and stuff like that. Now, let me ask you, why isn't anybody asking who's crashing those ships? If they have 1,000,000 years more technology than us, do you think those ships are so unreliable that they just fly over Earth and drop dead and just fall under the ground? They're
It's the number
well,
one question everyone asks. That's the main
yeah.
question. Yeah.
Why are they crashing those ships? They're not crashing the ships. They're being shot down. That's exactly the point. The U.S. military has weapons, and the other ETs have weapons. All of those ships, 100% of them are armed to the teeth. And when they're flying over, sometimes they get shot at. And when they get shot at, you have the military go out and scoop them up as fast as possible and take them to various locations to start reverse engineering. And a lot of times they get the non-human biologics, meaning the aliens, they get them there. And a lot of them are from the good ETs. That's the
Hmm.
ones that they're shooting down. And a lot of those guys have been tortured, really unspeakable stuff that have been happening to them. And then when you have these people say, loving brothers and sisters out there in the galaxy, what? It's just like us. As above, so below. As below, so above. If you want to see ETs, look in the mirror. We are the ETs. Now, until 1995, the astronomical community was absolutely solid. Almost 100% of the astronomical community in all major universities said there's no evidence of any other planets around any other star system, period. The end of the story. They said that the possibility of a planet forming out of the primordial solar nebula is just like impossible.
Possible. It's too low.
So they said it just doesn't happen. And in 1995, they discovered the first evidence of a planet around a star. And now,
Right.
they're discovering 6 or 7 a week. But back until 1995, that's what they were saying. Now, was that scientific? Look, there's 2 types of statistics. There's descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. Descriptive statistics is when you have only one variable. And the only thing you can predict when you have only one variable is the mean, the average. Inferential statistics is when you have data on other variables and you say, well, if I know something about this, can I then know something about that? If I know what someone's partisan affiliation is, can I predict how they're going to vote? Things like that. You have more than one variable. But until 1995, they had only descriptive statistics because they had not yet discovered planets around other star systems. So the only thing they could have done is to predicted the mean. Now they had a sample of one, this solar system, and they had 9 major planets, an asteroid belt, comets, meteors, junk galore all over the place. And they
None of
said,
that.
there is no possibility of there being another planet around. And they not only said in this galaxy, they said in the universe. Until 1995, that's what they were saying. And they were teaching that in major universities across the whole planet. I'm talking the biggest universities. That's what they were teaching. Now, of course, they don't do that now. All right, so what about life on other planets? They have a sample of one, this planet. They've got billions upon billions of life forms on this planet. If you consider viruses as life forms, that's argumentative, but certainly you can argue for or against. But nonetheless, you have viruses, you have bacteria, you have all types of life forms. You have your dogs, you have your pets, you have your cats, you have plants all over the place. You have billions and billions of life forms, and they're saying there's no evidence of life
There's
anywhere.
none.
And
No, we're the only ones, Courtney.
we're
We're the
the
only
only
ones. That's how
it's
special we are.
it's like 1995 with the discovery of the planet. It's like crazy. They have a sample of one, and the only thing they can predict is the mean. And they must say, well, life must be, if you're in that sort of habitable zone of the solar system. Now they've discovered so many planets. They know there's zillions of these planets that are in the habitable zone. You have
And
to say,
moons. That was interesting to me just this last week, considering how many moons could have possible life just in our solar system. You know,
oh,
how
yeah.
many,
What we now know is that there was life on Mars, as well as the planet that used to be where the asteroid belt is now. We call it Maldek. It's broken up now as a result of a war between Mars and Maldek. And actually, it's not hard to blow up a planet. You can blow up the planet Earth easy. You go to, say, Scandia Labs and the Southwest, and they have you go to some place with like a few hundred or 1,000 nuclear weapons, and you detonate one so that it detonates the rest. It'll be easy to blow up the planet. All you do is this is a 8-mile thick crust around an 8,000 diameter ball of liquid molten rock. Liquid molten rock. It's a balloon. It's so easy to pop the balloon. And what happens if there's a slight crack in the crust? The very slightest. You get a huge volcano. What if you detonated a whole bunch of nuclear weapons? You'd have a hole in the earth and you get a blowout. It's easy to blow up this planet. It's not hard. Anyway, that's what happened with Maldek. Can I share the screen one more time to show you
yeah,
something?
definitely.
Okay, so let's look at something called base on Mars. This is a base on Mars. By the way, Haim Eshed, former head of the Israeli space director for 30 years, has also said that there is a base on Mars that is occupied by both Earth humans as well as extraterrestrials working side by side. Anyway, we have done a
Amazing.
large project on that, and that, in fact, is a thing. Okay, so this is our base on Mars project, and let me see. Those are the 2 images. We have NASA supplied images. You can see right here on the video, you see that nozzle at the top?
Yes.
Well, that nozzle goes into a pipeline that's into a dome, and that's what the base is. It's underneath the dome. Now, if you want to see here, you see these links here? You can download the highest resolution Mars base. It's the original quality, but the best one is download the desktop versions. It's especially formatted for the desktop, and it's a bit enhanced so that you get it. It's more clear than the original one, and you actually see the actual picture. And
Is
it's
this drawn through remote viewing?
no, this was supplied by NASA JPL Malin Space
Okay.
Science Systems, and you can actually see it. Uh, and then if you look at the exact same spot on Earth using Google Earth, now Google Earth has a Mars option. That's what you see. Chris, is that a piece of censoring or is that a piece of censoring? Google Earth censors that exact spot. The military does not want people to see that exact spot. Are you seeing Mars right now?
Yeah. We see that same picture with the jet coming out.
Are you seeing a really high resolution picture of the nozzle?
Yeah, it looks pretty high resolution.
You can download the desktop version so it's really clear. But you see that nozzle? That nozzle is not ambiguous. And it's spraying a jet of liquid. It's waste liquid out of it. And if you download it from the website and then make it your desktop, it's stunning. And then you see the dome down below. Well, this is a Mars base. There's actually a couple domes. We went after a few of the domes. And if you look at that exact spot with the Mars option of Google Earth, you see the image that was censored. So
Mhm.
I mean, what more do you want? It's it's censored with Google Earth. It's a picture that's as clear as anything you could possibly imagine of, and there's various domes in that location. And we sent the remote viewers in, they get everything. They get the spray, they get the nozzle, they get the pipeline, they get underneath inside the domes. I don't know if that's the exact base that Hayim was referring to, but it's exactly the way Hayim Shed referenced it with humans and ETs. Now, you can also say, well, how is that actually possible? That's crazy. How are we supposed to supply? SpaceX isn't sending anything to Mars. Of course, it's not sending anything to Mars. There was a secret space program. What do you think the admirals and the generals are going to do with with the crafts, the ET ships that are being knocked out of the sky? Okay, Chris, this is what they're going to do. I tell you what they're going to do. They're going to take the ET ships and they're going to take them and they're going to put them out at Area 51 on the surface of the desert, and then they're going to have all the troops gather around them, and they're going to create a campfire, and they're all going to sing every day, year after year, "Kumbaya." That's what they're gonna do with it. Do you think that's what they're gonna do? No, that's crazy. The first thing they're gonna do is say, "I want one of those things." And they're gonna say, "We want reverse engineering. We want that. We want one though. We want those things." So once they have those things, you flew those jets, you know the military. Any advantage they have, they're not gonna publicize that stuff. And
No. No.
the whole house of cards would collapse if they admitted what they're actually doing with the reverse engineering of the ET spacecraft and the non-biologics. And then people would not only say, well, what have these ETs been doing? But they'd also ask, well, what are you doing with the ETs? And like, who have you shot down? And what have you done with those people?
Mm.
And like, what do you mean they're fighting? Who's fighting? What groups are fighting? The whole stuff would come out. But that's what's going on. Now, this is operated as a prison planet. This is sort of the end of the story of where we are right now. You have to look at all of our projects to be able to sort of see the whole story. But the basic idea is that this place is being run as a prison. And normally, with prisons, like with China under Mao Zedong or Soviet Union under Stalin and later, you can't get out. Well, the prison's worthless if you can't get out. I mean, if you can get out. So what happens is death used to be, throughout the galaxy, a means of transportation. This whole idea of the ISB proving that the soul exists is just ridiculous. In other planets and other solar systems, everyone knows that who you are. You're the ISB, you're not the physical body. And when you die, you don't lose your stuff. You don't lose your house, you don't lose your wife, your husband, your friends, your bank account. You don't lose any of that stuff because they know that that's not you. The body isn't you. You can get another body, or even you can come back as a baby, but you don't lose your stuff. Here, when you die, they assume that that person is gone forever, and the vultures come in to take your money, your house, your car, your everything else, and it's all gone. But in other places of the galaxy, that doesn't happen. So to make this work in this prison, after you die, we've investigated this a lot. After you die, you see the light and you're drawn to the light. You know what that light is? It's a trap. What that light is, it's like a wave and it feels really good and it draws you in. And once you get into it, the more you fight against it, it's like sticky. You get stuck into it worse and worse. And then you get sent to a spot where you're given an electronic, a zap. It's way higher voltage than lightning. You're zapped, electroshock treatment on steroids. And what happens is you can't kill an ISBE, but you can rattle it. And they figured out a technology to sufficiently rattle it so you lose your memory. You don't have any memory of
Mm.
who you are. And you also lose the perceptual capabilities with remote viewing and perception, telepathy, and stuff like that. You're just stunned.
Mm.
And then an AI comes in and fills it in with a whole bunch of fake memories. Some of them may be associated with your past, but maybe a lot of new ones. And then inevitably, the AI comes in, looks like a nice person, says, we've discussed your case with our 12 counselors. You're a very important person. So the 12 counselors, we talked all over your stuff. And we've decided that it would be in your best interest, we think, if you went back and remember that argument you had with your son on your daughter? And when you had that real tiff with your mother, there's some wrinkles in your personality that we think you should go back and sort of fix. But it's up to you. It's your choice. But we think you'd be better off. And with no memory and everything being zapped, the person inevitably says, "You're right. I need to go back and work on that stuff," and they get cycled back in. So that's what happens, and that's how come you can't get out of this place. Very few people have gotten out of this place. So what happens is that this place is operated as a prison. Now the goody teas want to break it all down. They want it to be ended because of the billions of people that are here, and you have to talk about the other billions that are in the wings that are not yet cycled back into physical bodies, billions upon billions of people. That's why the bad ETs want this place. This is a huge population, and this can be used for everything. It can be used as a mercenary force, big time. It can be used as prostitutions for supply, for servicing the mercenary force. It can be used for people that need to wash tables, servants, military people. It can be used for every type of thing. It's an army waiting to happen. It can be used all over the entire galaxy. You need ISBs to do anything in this galaxy. And you need lots of them. So this is a huge, that's why the bad ETs are here. They don't give a hoot about the minerals. It's the ISBs they want. There's the people that they want. But the people, if they had their memories, they would rebel. This is not a physical prison with bars. It's a psychological prison. So what happens is that the good ETs, the reason they're here in the first place, the reason they have so many resources in the solar system is they're trying desperately to free this place because we are the brothers and sisters and relatives and friends. We are people that were taken from them a long time ago. All these billions of people, they belong somewhere. They came from someplace. And that place is, they're coming, they're here, and they're trying to get us back. But they can't get us back if we're fighting them, if we're resisting. That's why the big movement to change the way people think through the mass media and stuff like that has been so important. The bad ETs have the political leadership locked up. All types of means of manipulation have been used to get to get the political leadership to do whatever they want. But the good ETs really have the hearts and minds of the public. And now is crunch time. Now is the crunch time. That was the time when the disclosure thing is an experiment. We don't know if it's going to fully work. We have a plan, but the idea is that you have two forms of disclosure. It may be that I heard you say this word, in fact, on one of your talks on your show. There's gradual disclosure and there's catastrophic disclosure.
Hmm.
And I believe I'm quoting you with the words catastrophic disclosure, which is a great term.
Yeah, last week I heard it.
Gradual disclosure can be manipulated. It can be changed. It can be distorted. At gradual disclosure, we tried that before in the past. It doesn't work. We're actually trying for catastrophic disclosure. Really fast, really rapid, because the bad ETs can't control that. This prison is it's operated by psychological means.
Hmm.
If you break that, all we're asking is you tell people the truth. And that's all we're asking. And so many people have been manipulated. So many people who are even in the ET UFO disclosure movement have been badly influenced. They don't even know they've been influenced into thinking that everybody's good in the galaxy. Chris, what is the possibility? Looking at the mean, remember, you have a mean of 1. You have a sample of 1, and you see how much fighting is on the planet Earth? That has to be your prediction. You don't have any inferential statistics. You have only descriptive statistics. What is the possibility that the entire galaxy, given that the mean of 1 is what you see on planet Earth, what is the possibility that the entire galaxy is loving ET brothers and sisters who are waiting for you to come out so they can embrace you with warm, enveloping hands and say, "Oh, thank goodness, now you're with us together"? What's the possibility of that being true? 0.
Very
It's
low.
like it's
Yeah.
like saying that there are no planets around any other star system. It's like saying there's no life on any other star system.
Yeah.
It's like, it's crazy. It's from a scientific perspective, it's impossible based on what we have statistically, scientifically. We have a mean of 1, this planet. Look at everybody fighting. It's not possible to think that the galaxy is in peace.
Well, look at
Based on,
nature. Yeah, my own view is that most likely nature just continues up into the cosmos. You know, when we look down, we keep seeing life. We see nature at all different levels. That's what I believe is looking up is, like you said, why would we stop? Why we assume, our one sample, life is in a solar system, so we assume every other solar system is zero. It makes absolutely no sense. Yeah,
Makes no sense.
that's
And
the
just
mainstream. Do you think it will change? You said next year. You think is that
we are
the
trying.
time?
We are trying. That's what the disclosure process is all about.
Mm.
And we're trying to trigger catastrophic disclosure. And we're trying to see if that works. With catastrophic disclosure, will you get the planet waking up and suddenly demanding of its leadership that they stop this fool's gold chase of aligning themselves with prison authorities in exchange for some tech help? Now, look, none of the tech help that the bad ETs are giving, none of it can defeat the bad ETs. Do you think the bad ETs are giving them any technology that would allow humans to actually go toe to toe with the bad ETs?
No,
That's crazy. So,
dominate on Earth, obviously. Yeah.
so they have a secret space program, and it does supply the base on Mars. And they probably have situations where the secret space program is used as a mercenary force to knock down ET ships that are coming in. Now, some of the ET ships can be bad ETs, but not in alliance with the bad ETs that are here. For example, you can have ET ships coming in that want to kidnap, capture, exploit people. There are three biggest industries on the planet. There are many other industries, but these are the three biggest. The very biggest in terms of money is human trafficking. The second biggest is weapons sales. The third biggest is drugs. Those are the three biggest money movers on the planet: human trafficking, weapons sales, and drugs. So, what you're talking about is other societies out there probably having similar types of orientation. And some people would say human trafficking is great. Some of the biggest operation of the bad ETs is with human trafficking. And that's what the government's really, that's one of the reasons they want to keep this all secret. They don't want to admit to people that they've been allowing human trafficking to go on. But the issue with other ET groups that can come in and say, hey, we could use some of those people as well. We'd like to experiment on their bodies, and we'd like to capture their ISBs and make slaves out of them. So this is a huge resource, this planet, and other ETs would come in. And so I'm assuming that the bad ETs have the secret space program working to shoot down some of those marauder ships that come in to sort of to seal people for trafficking. It's like organized crime saying, if you invade our turf, we're going to get you. They're both bad guys, both sides, but nonetheless, you're going into their turf. So this is the turf of the bad ETs. And if another bad ET of a different group comes in and tries to steal some of the people, they want somebody to take them out. And, and in addition to that, a lot of good ETs have had their ships popped out of the air as well. A lot of this craft retrieval is part of our side. They're knocking down ships from our side, and I'll be blunt with you. Some of the people that have been in those ships have survived, and they've been tortured. And this stuff should not be in dispute. It's not in dispute that there's a craft retrieval program if you're watching anything coming out of the congressional hearings. And secondly, it's not surprising if there is a craft retrieval program, and admittedly, they're saying that there have been non-biologics that have been captured alive. You have to say, well, what knocked it out? Do you really think that the motor broke and that's why it crashed? Do you really
Yeah.
think that's why they crashed? And secondly, once you have non-human biologics, what are you going to do with those non-human biologics? What are you going to do with the aliens? They're going to interrogate them. They're immediately going to take them, put them into a closed room, and threaten them, and torture probably. But they're going to want information from that, and they're also going to want those ships reverse engineered as much as you can. This is what happens when you align yourself with the bad ETs. None of it becomes open. So when you see this disclosure thing happens, all of that stuff will come out. But it's necessary because what the human leadership is doing, they're selling all of humanity into a slave society. The bad ETs are bad for a reason. Human trafficking is their biggest stuff. They need the people. They want the people. They have wars they want to fight. They have prostitution rings they need to fill. They have every type of thing that you see in society, from trading and everything else. They need loyal servants that will do what they want to do. They need these people because you can't do anything with a body unless there's an ISB animating it. And billions of people, there's billions of stars out there, there's billions of places to invade. Every system tries to expand. Look at the United States and the influence. We've tried to expand NATO. Soviet Union and Russia, they tried to expand their influence across Russia, across Africa and Asia. China's trying to expand its influence all over the place in Africa and
Like
Asia.
nature. Just like
Like
nature.
nature. So what's going to happen when you get these ET alliances? They're trying to expand themselves because the more population, it's either expand or you die. That's how they think of it. We either grow or we die. So the bad ETs say, well, we need to grow. And where do you grow? We grow in the area where the good ETs live. And that means we need people. We need to conquer them, one star system at a time. That's how we do it. And invasion is one of the things that they do. So that's what the human leadership is actually selling the population into, and they don't want that to come out. See, it's not the humans, they ask these very simplistic questions. Does that mean we're not alone in the universe? Ah, it's a spoiler alert. The point is, they're not asking the right questions. Okay, so you're telling me that there is a craft retrieval program, that there's been non-biologics, aliens, things like that? Okay. How did the aliens crash? Who shot them down? Secondly, what have you been doing with them? Thirdly, these aliens that you're capturing and everything, what if they're around here for like a long time, potentially thousands of years? What have they been doing all this time? Third, fourth or fifth, whatever it is, why don't they show themselves? If they exist, why are we having debates about whether they exist or not? This is where our making video recordings of the ET ships is so important. Yeah, they exist. And you don't have to wait for us to show some type of crazy tic-tac fuzzy video. Make your own videos. There it is. I mean, I didn't do anything special with that. Lincoln Lounsbury, the flight traffic control of Washington, D.C., the most senior person there. He's also been an advisor for the FAA. He's written in major avionic publications. He's an author of scientific stuff. He's the one who told us how to do this. Do you think I thought of that stuff? Look at that. You see how close that is? Is that any ambiguity? And that's the rotating UFO. The things that look like a tail, sometimes it's in front and then it goes to the back. So obviously it's turning around. I took that and you say, okay, well, Courtney, you must have used Photoshop on it. You did CGI. Okay, take your own damn pictures. This is the exact descriptions of what to do. You're getting those from Instagram. Look at this, the writing on the side of it. We tell the exact cameras that we use for that particular picture. See, it was a 830 nanometer. We tell exactly how to do it so that you can replicate it yourself. And if you have no money at all, spend $1 on Amazon or go to a 3D movie and get bring the glasses home, cut them up, and tape this on top of your cell phone camera. Now, they won't be as good as what we do, but it'll still work. You'll still see stuff. And the authorities are not telling you stuff, so you can't wait for them.
Okay. Well, amazing stuff, Courtney Brown. Thank you so much for all your efforts and for your time today. Thank you.
Chris, I really enjoyed myself. Sorry I talk so loud, and talk so often. You see, I'm a professor. You should see it when I go on a date. The girl can never get me to shut up.
That was amazing. Where can people go to find you?
Well, there's 3 places. You want to see some UFO footage that you can just sort of watch and just go, ooh, ah. There's a lot of orbs also that are fun to watch. Go to my Instagram page. And the reason we use Instagram for these free short little things is Instagram's really great with short video clips that you can watch on your phone. So if you say go to YouTube or something, you see the red orb, that's really great. That was shot over Albuquerque, New Mexico. So that's a very common configuration. These orbs, they have no wings, no nothing. They travel at 20,000 miles an hour. And that was really slowed down a lot.
Well, this says Pensacola. Sorry, it says Pensacola here.
Oh, yeah, that's Pensacola. That's Pensacola. That's a very similar configuration to one that I got over Albuquerque. I was interviewed by Jeffrey Mishlove out in Albuquerque. And I said, hey, Jeff, before we do it, we're recording tomorrow. How about we just spend a couple, 15 minutes, 20 minutes recording some UFOs, and then we'll analyze the footage at night. That way you can see that what I'm telling you is not lies. So I took my camera there, and then is on his deck at his house. I just put it out and we recorded, and sure enough, at the night we looked at them, and there they were. Oh yeah, okay. And then you get those rotating. That's a rotating one, and they come in
Yeah.
all different configurations. The orb is one, the cylinder shape is another, this
Mm.
rotating one is another, and it's like fishing. You go fishing, you don't know what you're going to catch.
Okay, so you'd recommend people go and try and
Oh
find it
yes.
on
So
their own.
Courtney Brown Farsight is my Instagram page. That's the entry point because it's free and you have it on your phone. Courtney Brown Farsight. Then you can go to farsight.org, where that's the nonprofit, and just sort of get a scan of, yeah, that's what you're looking at there, of all the different projects we have. And then the next thing is farsightprime.com. That's like Hulu, Netflix. That's where we have all of the major projects,
Cool.
and you can get a week for free.
These are
Let
all the
me
videos? Is this
this is where all the videos are. You have to put your email address in and log on. It's like having an Amazon account and so on like that. But the
okay?
first week is free, and you can always cancel after that. So I'm sharing my screen now. Do you see that?
Yep.
So here it is. And this thing here is, and we do political things too, like the Hamas attack. Who knew what? That's one of our remote viewers, Kamaya. And here we did the Pope Francis and the Vatican. With Pope Francis, we investigated how much he knew about the actual crucifixion, because one of the things we found out is that Jesus was not the guy who was crucified. Jesus was a very advanced being, and he was part of the good guys, the good ETs. He had all of his memories. He wasn't zapped by what we call the death traps, which is the electroshock treatment. So he had the idea, actually, him and his group had the idea of inserting some ideas into the society that would change it over time, over hundreds of years, to be changing it from a slave society, the Greek and Roman societies were slave societies, into something more peaceful. And he basically said, love is the thing that drives the universe, and it's good to chill out, forgive and forget, and things like. But that was changed. The bad ETs over the centuries were able to convert that into hardcore religions that said, if you don't get down on your knees and beg for forgiveness, you're going to be banished for eternity into hell. But we can grant you eternal life, the appropriate authorities, and grant you eternal life in heaven if you get down on your knees and beg. So, that was one of our projects that we wanted to see about the Jesus thing. And what we found out, that he was not actually the one that was crucified. There was somebody else, someone who had a mental disorder. And a few of the disciples, just a few of them, like 3, made this plan with Jesus that a crucifixion was going to happen no matter what. You can't amass any type of following at all back in those days without being crucified. So this project of introducing the ideas was going to end with a crucifixion no matter what happened. So you might as well make good use of it. But Jesus wasn't going to submit himself to the torture of his enemies. The slave societies were being run by the bad ETs. He wasn't going to say, okay, you can torture me now. He wasn't going to do that. But the crucifixion was going to happen no matter what. So they had this other guy agree. He was mentally disturbed, but he agreed. And the authorities had not actually seen Jesus. So Judas's role was to lead the authorities to the correct person so that the Jesus guy could get out of town and so on. And that was a very risky thing that Judas did, because if it was discovered what he did, he would have been crucified. And he was bad-mouthed for the rest of the few thousand years. But nonetheless, that's sort of what happened. And then we did a project on Pope Francis, where we had our viewers go into his mind, and also the minds of the cardinals, of how much they actually knew about that. In fact, they know about it. And they're terrified that it's going to come out. Like, it's a big deal. Anyway, we have zillions of projects as I go scrolling down here. This is a whole series on recording UFOs, including a movie. It's a full example from start to finish on how to edit the stuff. We did projects on the JFK assassination, 9/11, all types of archaeological stuff, Noah's Ark, Puma Punku, Eye of Sahara, Göbekli Tepe, the Nazca lines, the human condition, which is the death traps. That was the one where the electroshock treatment happens. And then we did a whole bunch of stuff on religion, including Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, Moses, Ra, Zeus. Zeus is an interesting guy, for example. People say, Zeus is the great god Zeus. He was not a god. He was just like you and me. He was a person. He didn't fly a chariot. He flew a UFO. He flew a spaceship. And he was a prison warden. That's what he did. That was his job. He was running the prison and he was the warden. And Chris, we went into that guy's head and saw what he did. We witnessed everything. He was a serial rapist. That's all he was. He was a prison warden. If you look at the Holocaust and the things that were done in the Holocaust with the people who were captive there, the Jews that were tortured in the Holocaust and so on, the people that ran the concentration camps, they used to do everything bad that they could imagine. It wasn't just burn them and gas them. They raped them. They did everything. Well, that was Zeus. He used to consider this his playground, and he went around raping underage girls in front of their families. That was him. He's the guy who should be in prison. Anyway, and we have a whole bunch of series on various different groups of the extraterrestrials. The war in heaven, that was resulted in the planet Maldek to be blown up. But we have all types of other things. Operation High Jump, which was the thing that happened in Antarctica with Admiral Byrd after World War II, when he took his flotilla, 13 ships to Antarctica and had his ass kicked. That was a trick that was done by the bad ETs to get the American authorities to sign the agreements in the first place. So that was Operation High Jump. Is an interesting thing because it shows how they tricked the American authorities into signing the agreements. And then we have a whole bunch of things on UFOs and ET encounters. And then we have a huge instructional library of like 30 videos that tells people how to do this type of stuff. And anyway, so it goes on and on and on. That's our streaming service. And that's what people pay for when they...
Excellent. What did you find out about JFK? Sorry, I just have to ask. Guilty pleasure, I guess.
It was very clear. We had remote viewers that were very specific. By the way, everything's done with no front loading at all. Everything's done totally blind. They don't know anything about the project. They don't know anything about the target. They're just told there's a target, remote view it, and they have to come up with all the information all by themselves. No remote viewing can be done with any front loading, because then the conscious mind would get involved and stream up everything and you just get junk. So it all has to be done. And it takes a lot of training to get all this information without any front loading whatsoever. Zero front loading. If you look at the Zapruder film, it's very clear he was shot from different sides. You have a bullet coming in from the front, a bullet coming in from the back, his brain's being blown out in the back. I mean, it's very clear. What we found out is that there were 3 different groups of snipers. Each one had 3 people in it. If you come from a military background, you'll recognize this immediately. Of the 3 people in each group, one was the shooter. The other person was the one who's looking at the general target, making sure everything is configured. And then a third person is the lookout, the one who's looking around to make sure no one's approaching and stuff like that. So each group, and there were 3 of those groups. 2 of the groups actually shot weapons, shot shots that actually hit Kennedy. Right after that, they broke up, they disbanded, they went in different directions. These were official sharpshooters. They said Lee Harvey Oswald shot Kennedy. This is from the original government investigation, the Warren Committee investigation. The rifle that they said Lee Harvey Oswald used was rusted. This is not me talking. This is the official Warren Committee. They had the U.S. government forensic people look at the rifle. Not only was it rusted, the sights, you know, the sights that they used to aim the thing, they were broken. And they couldn't realign them with shims, meaning the forensic people themselves tried to fix the rifle so that the sights would line up. It didn't work. They couldn't even get it to do. Now, Chris, this is the one thing I want to say. I think you will agree with this. You and I both know people that have guns, and we both know people that, or we know of people, or have heard of people that are sharpshooters. What do they do with their guns besides shoot them?
Clean them.
They clean them. They take them apart. They polish them. Everything is spick and span. Everything is shiny. They keep them in perfect order. They put them on their mantelpiece or special safes. They put them in. They're in perfect condition. Whoever shot JFK shot him from like a real far distance away, like a long distance away. Whoever shot JFK, we were sharpshooters. They were the best sharpshooters government or anybody could get. They're the best sharpshooters anybody could get. And there were groups. Lee Harvey Oswald, he was no sharpshooter, A. B, His gun that the government said he used was busted. It was rusted. The sights didn't even work. And the government itself, it says in the Warren Commission, the government itself said they could not fix the sights. From a long distance away, a sharpshooter, first of all, no sharpshooter would have a gun that was rusted with broken sights. And whoever did shoot JFK was a sharpshooter. It was without any ambiguity. It was from far away. And whoever shot it was a perfect shot from a long distance away. And the guns that were used, guaranteed, were in perfect working order, clean and everything. Okay. And then immediately after Lee Harvey Oswald gets rounded up, he gets killed. No questions can be asked. So, it got to a point. It used to be that on YouTube, you could see the Zapruder film easily, and people were analyzing it and slowing it down and showing you can't do that on YouTube anymore. You can find it sometimes, but it's hard. Everything is so censored, so heavily censored these days. The government maintains its control because of secrecy, because they're not telling people what's actually happening. And the only thing that I am trying to do, and my side of the ETs are trying to do, is say, this has gotten to an extreme point. Your whole planet is a prison planet. You're not helping anybody by being the guards in the prison, by helping the prison authorities maintain the population. You're not helping anybody do that. You're leading them down into a very bad future. You're collaborators in a very bad situation. Only thing we want to say is, if you want to do that, that's fine, but tell people the truth. Let them make a free will choice. So the only thing we're saying is, if you want to be a slave, if you want to be a prisoner, if you don't want to, that's fine. It's okay. But make the choice yourself. So the only thing our side is trying to do is, and that's where Farsight is involved. If you had disclosure, but no information came out, nothing's going to change. So Farsight's role from the very beginning has been to build a library so that people can have access to the truth. And it had to be in a streaming service, because video is where people get information these days. And B, it had to be in a sufficiently powerful venue that it cannot be taken down. We had to own it, number one. Number two, it had to be able to handle millions, like hundreds of millions of views at the same time. So it's not something that we could have our own server and show people videos on our own server. That could be taken down on a heartbeat. YouTube could kick us off. I'm not complaining about YouTube. I love YouTube. We started out as YouTube. We're YouTube partners. Anything that's controversial is just not working with YouTube anymore. YouTube is really great with funny animal videos. It's really great with people that do parachuting. It's really great for people who do plastic surgery. It's really great for makeup tutorials, things like that. It's really great for things like that. But anything controversial just doesn't work anymore. So we had to have our own streaming service. YouTube is a do-it-yourself streaming service. I'm not complaining about it. It just is. It's also owned by Google, and you saw what happened with the Mars base. They censored that part. I'm not complaining about Google. I'm sure the military went to them and said, you censored that spot or you're going to regret. And they censored it. The only thing we're saying is tell the people the truth, because what you're doing is you're leading all of humanity and everybody that you're working for, including yourselves, you're leading them to a very bad place. And, nobody's gaining anything from it. So those people who are really ferociously trying to fight disclosure, including the people in Congress, the few people in Congress who are listening to the defense contractor people or whatever, saying, stop this disclosure bill, get rid of it, water it down. You think the bad ETs are going to give them the benefit of the doubt when they die? You think they're going to say, oh, you helped us so much. You were a military general. You helped us so much. Or you're this or that. You helped us so much. We're going to not let you have to be processed through the amnesia machines anymore. You're special now. You think that's going to happen? No. Everybody's going to get treated the exact same way, whether you're a general, whether you're a corporate person. When you die, you see the light, you get sucked into it, you get zapped, the memory is lost, the AI comes out, the Council of 12 is consulted, and we think you should go back in. Everybody's going to be processed the exact same way. A slave is a slave is a slave. Before the American Civil War, when they had slaves, they had slaves that were ruling the slaves. They had slaves that they gave some benefits to, but they were still slaves. And they would be ones who would be responsible for sometimes beating other slaves and things like that. It wasn't always white people beating up black people. It was sometimes it was slaves themselves who were riding herd over the other slaves in exchange for what they thought was a little bit of better treatment. But in the end of the day, they were all slaves. So those people who are human collaborators with the bad ETs, they're not going to be treated better. When they die, they're not going to be said, "Oh, you're not one of us." That's nothing like that's going to happen. They're going to be processed just like everybody else gets processed and recycled back in and have to start all over again. So we're trying to convince everybody that it's really to everyone's best interests to simply tell people the truth. Nobody's trying to tell anyone how to govern themselves. No one's trying to say you have to have this form of government. Now, the bad ETs do that. They're heavily involved in governmental manipulation. But the good ETs are not. They're not trying to say you have to have this type of society or that type of society or this type of government or that type of government. The only thing you're saying is tell people the truth and let people decide. If they still want to align themselves with the bad ETs, hey, it's okay. But just tell people the truth. That's the only thing we're fighting for. But the point is, you can't just force disclosure without giving people what really happened. You have to
Yeah.
tell them what the real story is. That's where FarsightPrime.com came about. It had to be in a situation where people could see it for themselves. And they should be asking when they watch FarsightPrime.com with regard to, so part of FarsightPrime.com has physical evidence of the ship's analysis, and you can see Lincoln Lounsbury actually analyzing the actual videos. The senior air traffic control guy at Washington, D.C., you see him telling how he actually calculates these speeds and everything like that. But on the other hand, you also see the remote viewing stuff. And with that, you should all be asking, why can't we do that? What do you mean there's telepathy is for real? What do you mean remote viewing is for every single person should be saying, why can't we do that? Why do we need a year of training? What's going on? And then you say, now you want to know the why? We know why. Before you were born, you were zapped. And this whole process is kept as a prison system. It makes you unable to remember. You don't remember who your family were. You know how the ETs look at humans on Earth? This is a zombie planet. Now think of what zombies are. Zombies are people that are dead but undead. All right? They have no memory of who they are. They have no memory of where they came from. Because they have no memory of who they are, they go around hurting people and themselves. That's how the ETs look at all of humans. This is a zombie planet, and it's dangerous to be around zombies. They do all types of crazy stuff because they don't remember anything. By the way, in all of science fiction that doesn't have any connection with reality, any connection with humanity, any connection with life, it bounces. No one wants to watch that kind of science fiction. Science fiction only resonates with people when deep inside they say, that's it. That's us. The Matrix movies, they resonated with people because people said, yeah, this is like a Matrix. It's like a controlled reality. We're not seeing the real thing. We're being manipulated. Star Wars was actually based on a real galactic war that actually happened. So when you think of zombie movies, you have to say, why are zombies movies so popular? They are. It's a really popular genre of movies. It's because deep inside people know they are the zombies. They don't remember anything. They hurt other people. They don't know where they came from. They don't know where they're going. And the rest of the extraterrestrials out there look at this planet and they say two things. This is a dangerous place. If you get close, you can get shot down. And if you get shot down, you're going to be tortured. It's a dangerous place. You just don't walk around it easily. Secondly, the whole planet is occupied by zombies. Tell me the flaw in the logic. That's why people have to be woken up. They have to say, what? There's something real? How do you wake up a zombie? That's really hard. So this is why your phrase, which I really love, actually, catastrophic disclosure. I was always calling it rapid disclosure, but catastrophic disclosure is actually a good phrase. I'm really so glad you coined it.
Yeah,
That's what's
I
necessary.
didn't point it, heard it, but
Oh,
I thought it was. I thought it was very interesting as well.
Anyway, that's the bottom line. We're only trying to get people to tell the truth. That's if the truth comes out, that's all we're asking. We're not asking for anything more. Just tell the people the truth, and then everybody can make up their own mind. And if you want us to all go away, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you so much again, Courtney. Amazing stuff, man. I'm so glad you came on the show. I'm so glad I found out about you and that you're out there. Yeah, spending so much time and effort on all this information. A lot of people are gonna, I'm sure, make comments about the woo, you know. And my point is, don't fear the woo, right? The one thing we can agree on is that we're having a conscious experience right now. It seems like, you know, there should be something related more to consciousness than meets the eye, or at least is in our mainstream science.
Yeah.
So I
The
hope,
whole
you've opened at least somebody's mind out there to consider these, at least consider these topics.
And remember, there's steps. You can't just say accept everything at once. Step number one, pull out your phone and look at a couple of these things. Okay. And then if you're really doubtful, pull out your camera, make some videos. Thirdly, look at some of the other things that we have. We have a bunch of projects that you can find on YouTube that you can find on farsight.org. In fact, the JFK and the 9/11 projects, those are available on YouTube for free. And
Okay.
then if you want to get a little bit more, if you want the whole story of the package of goods that you've been sold since you were a kid in high school or in primary school, there's farsightprime.com. So, you know, it's easy to start, just a little phone. That's all you need. Okay. Secondly, then go to your computer, go to farsight.org. And then if you really want to dig in and find out the real truth, there's farsightprime.com.
Okay. Thank you, Courtney. Have a great day to all our watchers. Thank you so much.
Chris, thank you for inviting me on. I really appreciate it. From pilot to pilot, from a bad pilot to a good pilot, it's great.
More experience, maybe. More training, like you said.
Much more training.